Hi everyone, and welcome to Lunch Hour Lessons with Allison. I'm Allison Mädl, and today is June 5th, 2019. Every Wednesday at 12:30, I come to you live to introduce a topic related to nutrition and health that I think is interesting and give you a lesson to take with you into your daily life. If you like what you hear, feel free to comment or like this video. And as always, I post a transcript of each lesson on my blog at AllisonMädl.com. This week's lesson is Easy Cream of Vegetable Soups. Well, I love cream of vegetable soups. Cream of mushroom, cream of celery, cream of broccoli, yum. But the canned versions of these soups are definitely to be avoided, with an ingredient list that includes vegetable oil, starches, gluten, soy, and MSG. Campbell's cream of mushroom soup is not doing your body any favors. So it's very easy to make delicious cream of vegetable soups at home that avoid all these undesirable ingredients, and they're good at any time of the year. So you may be surprised to learn that eating vegetables this way in a cream soup is actually more nourishing than simply eating the vegetable by itself. The reason is that the fats in the cream make the vitamins and minerals in the vegetable more digestible. Basically, the cream allows the digestive system to absorb the vitamins and minerals better. For example, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. So anything that's called a fat-soluble vitamin, of which we have four, they are vitamins A, D, E, and K. Those are fat-soluble vitamins. That means that they require fat in the meal to be absorbed, digested. If there's no fat present, then they just won't be utilized. So skim milk, for example, fat-free milk with vitamin D added, basically doesn't do anything unless you have a good source of alternative fat in the same meal, because the vitamin D can't be utilized. So eating cream of mushroom soup gets all the vitamins and minerals into the body in a complete package because like, for example, with vitamin D, that's needed for calcium absorption. And so mushrooms are the only plant source of vitamin D. They actually synthesize vitamin D in their skins just like humans do. Very different than other plants. I mean, mushrooms are really a fungus, so they're not typically a plant like any other plant. So they're really special in that they can make vitamin D. It's actually vitamin D2, not vitamin D3, like what we normally use to fortify and kind of the most active form in our bodies. But vitamin D2 is also important. So if we want to get the vitamin D2 from the mushrooms, we need to make sure we eat it with fat so that it can be utilized. I learned these recipes that I'm going to share with you from my mother-in-law, who made them frequently. And the basic recipe is kind of a delicious base on its own. And I just like making it the way I'm going to describe here. It allows the flavor of the vegetable to really come through. You may add other herbs or spices that you desire. Usually dried dill is a really nice one for any of these vegetables that I'm going to suggest. And it's more like a procedure than a recipe, really. And measurements don't have to be exact. It's pretty forgiving. Measurements kind of depend on how much vegetable you have or how much you're going to buy. So let's follow the steps below. Step 1, you're going to choose and prepare your vegetable. So you're going to use just one vegetable for the soup. So options that I suggest starting with are broccoli, mushroom, butternut squash, or celery root. And celery root is a bulb. It's actually not the green stalks that you're used to seeing for celery, so you have to look for particularly celery root. It has a really nice deep celery flavor that you're not going to get with just the green stalks. So what you do is rinse and roughly, kind of bigger pieces, chop about 1 or 2 pounds of the vegetable, depending on, mushrooms are very light, so maybe a pound of those, butternut squash, maybe 2 pounds. And you're going to basically put them, so that goes into step 2. So step 2 is to put the vegetables into a pot. So you're going to just add them all in, fill the pot with water to cover the vegetables by about 2 inches, and add 1 teaspoon of salt, and then bring that pot to a boil and boil until the vegetables are soft. So basically just boiling the chopped vegetables, whichever one you choose. Step 3 is that you're going to take the pot off the heat and you're going to blend the soup. So you're going to use either an immersion blender, which I really recommend that everybody just go get. They're not that expensive. It's also known as a stick blender. You just put it in the soup and you can blend it that way. It's safer too, because the alternative would be to carefully transfer the soup into a stand-up blender in batches and then blend that, and then you transfer that back to the pot, which works, but it can be messy and dangerous because the soup is pretty hot. So use an immersion blender if you can. So blend that up till it's nice and smooth. So then you have basically a vegetable puree that's fairly watery. And when you're actually, I think I forgot to mention, you can also use broth. So when I said to fill up the pot with water, you can use chicken broth or beef broth or vegetable broth or even like a fish broth to give the soup some different flavors if you wish. I usually just use water, but you can use broth as well, or a mixture of broth and water. So anyway, you've blended it up. Step 4 is to add the cream and to adjust the seasoning. In this case, basically just the salt. So you're going to taste the soup, add salt to your preference, remove a half a cup of that blended soup, and you're going to mix that half a cup with a half a cup of cream. That kind of tempers it, so it's not cold cream going into the hot soup. Mix that in, pour the mixture back into the soup, then take another half a cup of the soup that has a little bit of cream in it, add a half a cup more cream, mix that up, and then put that back in the soup. So you're going to end up with 1 cup of cream in the soup. You could just pour in a cup of cream, but you want to probably mix it up first. And then you're going to, and for celery root soup, you're going to want to use sour cream instead of fresh cream. It makes it taste nicer. So the other ones, you can use just celery root. And the other ones, you can just use fresh cream, and celery root, use sour cream. And then last, you're going to return the soup back up to a simmer, and then you can serve it. You could also cool it at this point and just refrigerate it or freeze it. Refrigerated, it's going to keep for about a week, and frozen will last a few months. These vegetable cream soups can be eaten like a standalone meal. You could add them as an appetizer to a main meal. They really do stimulate digestion, and they can be an economical way to stretch your food budget. So they're really great that way. And using broth instead of water, like I mentioned, is going to result in a richer soup that takes on that flavor of that broth. So you can experiment and see what you enjoy. Some of the other vegetables that can be used are asparagus, carrot, and zucchini. I'd probably start with those as along with the ones that I already mentioned. And if all that kind of makes your head spin, go onto my blog, remember, AllisonMädl.com, and I have all the steps listed out there where you can print it out and follow along and make your own vegetable cream soup. So that's all the time we have for today. Feel free to tell a friend this week's lunch hour lesson, which is soup with cream is extra nourishing. Again, soup with cream is extra nourishing. Like my page to get the weekend tip that comes out on Saturday mornings, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.